Uh-oh, your sound's gone now, man.
All right, Ivan Raiklin here, and we have another episode of Startup Mastermind. Tonight's a little bit different. We're going to be talking to Zephan Blacksburg. You can see there he's already in here as a co-host, and the reason why I wanted to have him on, and luckily he agreed, was to talk about one of the things that as a startup founder you need to do is you're always pitching your new company. One thing you got to do is travel a lot and going to different pitch events, as well as different parts of at least the United States, do your pitches, whether it's San Francisco, New York, DC, etc. And so when you do that, you don't really have money to do that. So what are some ways to actually travel to be able to withstand that travel with essentially a near zero budget, while at the same time, you're bootstrapping, you're trying to get your business growing to a point where it brings traction and interest of both clients, customers, as well as potential investors. So the best way to do it is to travel on the cheap. And Zephan definitely knows how to do that with his travel hacks. And you can see there in my screen in the background above me and to the right and around me, his website, Year of Purpose. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Zephan, thanks for coming on the show. You want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are right now, and why you know so much about travel hacking, and then we're going to go into the meat and potatoes of travel hacking on the cheap. And take it away, baby.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here tonight. Thanks for everyone else tuning in right now. If you're watching in on the replay, thank you as well for hanging out with us. My name is Zephan Moses Blacksburg, and my story is quite long and very weird. So I'm going to share with you guys kind of the important things.
We got all night.
Yeah. So my story, at least the important part of it, starts graduated college in 2010, worked for the largest information marketing company in the world running their video department, and found myself about a year and a half later without the start of becoming resourceful was super important for me, because I started to freelance my video services, and about 3-4 months later was picked up to work with Apple at the Apple Store at the Genius Bar, fixing stuff. And you've got to be able to think quick on your feet, think really fast, help out a lot of really pissed off people. And I worked there for about a year until I left that job in May of 2013 to start a video production company. And this was totally on my own, no investors, no funding, just, pure cash that I had left over from working a 9-to-5 job and really slaving over it. So there really wasn't a whole lot of money to work with in the first place. And so, a lot of my stuff has been, I've got to teach myself ways to make stuff happen, from my website, which, I had to teach myself WordPress and programming in PHP and some graphic design so I can make that work. Same thing goes for the podcast. I started a podcast in January of this year, 2015, and I didn't know anything about it when I first got started. So a lot of my life has been figuring out how to do things when both A, you don't know how, but B, you don't exactly have all the resources that other people do to make it happen. And that kind of leads me to present day. I host the Year of Purpose podcast. It's available on iTunes. You can just head on over to getyop.com on your iPhone, and it'll actually take you straight to the podcasting app. And I've got a book coming out, and it's called Life Rescripted. And basically, I'm not about living by the script. I'm not good at playing by the rules and living how people expect me to. And that's something that I'm sure many entrepreneurs can relate to. So if you can relate to that, let's get some messages coming in the comments here. Feel free to give us a little hands up going on. And if you can relate to the whole entrepreneurial lifestyle, definitely let us know. And if you have questions as we go through this, let us know. But yeah, man, so I had to figure out how to make stuff happen and make it happen quick and make it happen easily. And it probably was when I stumbled upon a website called Reddit. I don't know if you've checked out Reddit at all, Ivan.
Yeah, I've heard of Reddit.
Yeah, so reddit.com, pretty popular website. I think it's ranked is ridiculous as far as Alexa rank goes. It's got a ridiculous amount of traffic. People bring it down all the time because there's so many people on it. The way Reddit works is they have a bunch of things called subreddits, and just think of them as subcategories about any topic that you're looking for. And the one in particular I found is reddit.com/r, just the letter R, /churning, CHURNING. And churning is a subreddit of Reddit, and it's all about manufacturing spending on credit cards and churning through the credit card bonuses so that you can obtain the different bonuses. And there's a lot of ways to travel hack. This was really the first thing that got me started because I'm fresh out of college, but I built up some nice credit, and here's a thing really where you get started is the Credit Karma app. It's a free app for your iPhone. I think it's also on Android, and that's where you find out what your credit score is first. So that's where it starts on churning. That's exactly what they recommend you do, is find out what your credit score is. And so for me, not only was it beneficial to start by building credit, being an entrepreneur, I'll have to buy some expensive things pretty soon. But it was very easy to start taking out these credit cards that they talk about. And so every month or so, there's new credit card bonuses coming out, and I started to learn about them and realize that I could actually take out multiple cards at a time without demolishing my credit score and still being able to pay off all the bills and rack up a bunch of Sky Miles points on these. Thanks, Omar. You can paste your site URL here in the comments field. Yeah, so guys, if you're checking it out, Ivan's actually got the website URLs in there for you guys to check out. So he's pasting those in the comments. So thank you so much for that. I'll definitely, if there's any other ones that I put up, I'll let you know.
I got
so
you.
Credit Karma.
Put them in there as you speak.
Yeah, so I'll put Credit Karma in there right now. Just it's in the App Store, both Google, Android, and iPhone.
Okay.
But yeah, so one of the cool things that I started to do was I had a client offer, and she said, "Hey, I've got a conference. It's out in Arizona. I would love to have you there, but I don't want it to break the bank." And I'm relatively expensive for the video work that I do because I provide high quality work, and I can now demand higher prices. I've been at it for 3 years, and so I've been able to up my prices over time.
Right.
And so one of the things I wanted to do is figure out how can I get to this event out in Arizona. It was back at the beginning of this summer, but I had been prepping for it for quite some time for free. How can I go to my client and say, you know what, you just pay me my rate that you would pay me if we were here, and I'll take care of the flight. Don't worry about it. And so it really came down to this churning thing. And essentially what that is you take out a credit card, much like a bunch of these guys, which I'm not.
When you say take out a credit card, do you mean open up an account?
Yeah. So you will open up a credit card account. Mm-hmm.
So you open up a line of credit.
Yeah, but it's not just any. So you're not just going and saying, oh, here's, they offer you credit cards at every turn, right? You buy something on Amazon. Oh, hey, you could save $100 today if you open up the Amazon card. They do it everywhere. The trick is finding the ones with the right bonuses. And so for me, that started with Southwest Airlines. They offer a 50,000 Sky Mile points offer, and it changes every now and then. Essentially, it's somewhere between spending $2,000 and $3,000 in the first 3 months of having your card, which for me is pretty easy as a business owner as it is. But for other people who are just getting off the ground, they need to find creative ways of being able to spend that money without actually having money. And so this is referred to as manufactured spending, or in a lot of the places on these blogs, just MS for manufactured spending. Another place that you'll find info about this, I believe, is, I haven't looked at it in a while, but Flyer Talk Forum is a great place to go to. So it's flyertalk.com/forum, and I'll put that link in here for you guys. And so that's a good place where they talk about that. There's a bunch of other blogs. NerdWallet, I believe, .com is another really good one where they basically update it all the time. So anytime these bonuses are coming out, they're telling you about these credit card bonuses so that you can jump on them at that opportunity. I think Southwest does it pretty much like every 3 or 4 months. I see it come around. So, and sometimes you can actually Google the links and you'll find them, even though it's not really like publicly available on their site. You'll still be able to find pages to apply. But I started with the Southwest card. And reason being was the annual fee was low. It was like $69 a year. They were offering 50,000 Sky Miles with spending $2,000 in the first 3 months. But that wasn't good enough because I wanted to figure out how can we do better. So here's the cool thing with the Southwest card. And this is really just a start and one really good example of how far it can go. Southwest offers this 50,000 points deal for both a business and a personal card. And I'll get to the whole annual fee thing in a minute and how this doesn't actually cost money. So we'll get to that in just a second. But they offer, I believe the personal one is like a $69 annual fee. The business one is like $99. And they're pretty much the same offer. So essentially, if you can spend between about $4,000 and $6,000 between the two cards in the first 3 months, you're going to get 50,000 points on both cards. So let's just say for numbers' sake, they're asking you to spend $3,000 on each card and you hit that mark. Maybe you already spend that as it is. And if you don't, I'll tell you in just a second how that works and how you can make that happen. But let's say that you spend $3,000 on your personal card with Southwest that you just took out and $3,000 on the business one. Now, what happens is on the next statement for your credit card, you are awarded, once you've paid it all off, 50,000 Sky Miles points. And it's tied into your account. It all happens pretty much automatically. Now, the cool thing is, if you've got these two cards, essentially you're doubling it. You're getting 100,000 miles. But on top of that, because it's a credit card, and much like any other credit card, you get 1 mile for every dollar that you spend. Well, you already spent $6,000 essentially to hit that limit. So not only do you have the 100,000 in bonuses, but you now have an additional 6,000. So you have 106,000 Sky Miles that you just landed within the first month or two. And that's great and all. Your average flight for me has been somewhere between like 8,000 or 9,000 on the really cheap shorter flights, up towards 12,000 or 15,000 on the longer flights. So about 15,000 points if I were going from East Coast to West Coast. Okay. And so 106,000 points. The cool thing with Southwest is they have something called the Companion Pass. And if you hit 110,000 Sky Miles points in a calendar year, you receive a companion pass where your companion flies, I believe it's free with you for every flight within that calendar year. So you've spent $6,000. You've hit your 106,000 Sky Miles points. So you only have 4,000 more points to go. So if you're like me, if you're a business owner, if you're already spending this money, it's really not that hard to spend 4,000, in the first couple months of the year. Remember, I said it's calendar year. So the best time is to see. Yeah. So if these deals come around in like November, December, you want to take out those credit cards now. That way you get the card and you hit that spend in January, and make sure it posts in that January statement, not before, not in December, but January will get you in that calendar year. And so if you've spent that amount of money in that first calendar year, essentially January or February, you hit that companion pass. So you now not only have 110,000 Sky Miles, but your companion flies for free with you for the rest of the year. Now, I don't have a companion, not a big deal for me, but for many of you who are married, have a girlfriend, have a whomever you want to take with you on your travels, this is a pretty sweet deal. And so with 110,000 Sky Miles, essentially you're looking at somewhere around 8, if not 9 or 10 flights, depending on how conservative you are. And that's 5 free round trip flights. And they just opened up where they're flying outside of the U.S. now. You can actually fly direct from Baltimore, Maryland to Costa Rica. So this is not just keeping you stuck within the U.S. anymore. They're starting to now fly international, which is really cool. So that's kind of the start. And I know I mentioned some things back there that I wanted to circle back to, which was the annual fee, big concern of people. Another thing was spending that much money, because everyone's thinking, oh my God, Zephan, you're asking me to spend first 6,000 and then another 4,000 to hit that 110,000 mark. You're asking me to spend $10,000 in the first 2 months of the year. So let's rewind it a bit, jump back for a second. And one of the cool things about people on these subreddits with churning with the forums that are talking about this is that they have learned of a really unique discovery, and that is called the Bluebird and the Redbird card. And there's a couple different options out there. Unfortunately, the red card that I used for all of like the past year and a half now doesn't work. They shut it down when they start to find out about this stuff. The cool thing about this, though, is that new stuff comes out all the time. There's always a new method being created, and everyone's sharing it in these forums. So it's really just a matter of staying on top of it. But here's
this is the go-to forum for any of these, right? On Reddit?
Exactly. There's actually in the sidebar there, in the subreddit for churning, there's what's called a wiki. And that's basically your like how-to beginner's introduction that they say everyone should read first. So there's a great little
over here on the right
there. Yeah, there should be in one of those sections there under like the FAQs, or there should be like a wiki that kind of gives you the how-to. So that's over under there. So
okay.
Everyone's thinking, all right, Zephan, I'm not trying to spend $10,000 in January and February of this year. I just spent all this money on presents for Christmas.
You're making my job easy. You're asking and answering the questions. I like it. I'm listening here, absorbing.
You just sit back and enjoy. You're going to be on a flight real soon here. So the way this works is essentially I now have to spend this $10,000 or so, give or take, right? So just to hit the spending bonus. How do I do that if I don't have that money? And this is exactly what I did. Unfortunately, this strategy has changed a little bit. So I'm going to talk to you about how that's changed, and I'll tell you what to do from here. But this is what I did so that you can kind of see as a case study what happened. So Target stores, you go there all the time. They're down the street from pretty much everybody's house, has a prepaid red card through American Express. And you can get it at a Target store. It's totally free. You basically just pick one up and they charge it up at the register. And think of this kind of like one of those like rechargeable Visa gift cards that you can put as much money as you want on it. And when you use it at Target, you save 5% on your purchases. So that's kind of nice. But this Target red card, for the first year and a half that I've been using it, had the ability where you could charge this up with another credit card. So you could actually take another credit card and charge up this card. You didn't have to give them cash at the register or a check or whatever to get money onto here. And so this was kind of the thing that we exploited for a very long time, was that it was limited to, I believe, a maximum of charging $3,000. It was either $2,500 or $3,000 a month onto this card, and I believe $1,500 per transaction or something like that. It might have been as high as $5,000 per month at one point, and I believe like you could do 1,500 transactions a day or something like that. It's a little bit about reading the rules and figuring out how you can bend them legally, because this was all completely legal. I guarantee it, there's hundreds of people out there, if not thousands, doing this same method. So I've got to spend, let's imagine that this green card right here is my Southwest card, okay? And I've got to spend this amount of money to hit this spending bonus. What I would do is take this card and take my Target card, and I would charge up this Target card from my Southwest card. So I've now spent the money, right? So I'm hitting this spending bonus. So I would load this guy up, and sometimes it takes a couple trips because they're limited for how much you can put on per transaction. But I would load this guy up. So let's say all I need to hit the spending bonus is $1,000. Okay, cool. Walk into Target, go to the customer service desk, show them my red card, say, hey, I'd like to put $1,000 on this. They say, okay, go ahead and swipe your card to pay. Cool. Take my Southwest card, give it a swipe, and within about a minute and a half, I'm out of there. Quick little tip, though, because you are spending a large amount of money and usually your credit card company wonders what's going on and fraud protection kicks in. If you call your credit card company with the number on the back of your card while you're in the parking lot when you get to Target and just be like, hey, I just want to put a spending notice on there. I'm spending a large sum of money. They'll say, okay, where are you spending it at? And I'll say Target. And then usually they'll ask you what for. And I just say office supplies. They don't care. They just want to make sure that it's a legitimate purchase and that you're actually going to be paying that bill off when that bill goes on your credit card. So now everyone's thinking, all right, so I just put $1,000 on this Target card. I'm not buying $1,000 in Target stuff. Like, why did I do this? Well, the unique thing about this card, which still has it, but I'll tell you how stuff changed in a moment, is that this card has an online bill pay feature. meaning I can log into Target's online system and I can pay off bills from the amount of money that is put on this card. Well, guess what? It just so happens that I have a $1,000 bill on this card that I just racked up, and I have $1,000 on here that I can use with their online bill payment system to pay off any bill. So essentially, I use this guy to pay off the bill of this guy. So $1,000 have just passed through electronically, but has never left my bank account because I've never had to lift a finger or pay it or write a check out to take any money out of my bank account to actually pay this off.
Yeah, you got some props for me for that one.
So that is kind of like the basics behind this. And here's what happened. Here's how all that played out. So, I went through and got the bonuses. I got the Southwest card, the business card, the personal card, American Airlines, U.S. Airways, I think. And the cool thing was I was a little bit smart about this. Before American merged with, I believe it was with U.S. or United. I always put them together, but I think it's U.S. Airways. Before they merged, both of them had credit card deals. Spend $2,000 or $3,000 and get 50,000 points. So I took out a credit card with both American and U.S., hit both of those spending limits, all by using the Target card to just pay off the bill. And when they merged about 2 months later, I had to wait about a month or so, and then I logged into my American Airlines account. I had another 100,000 miles sitting there waiting for me right there, on top of $1 or a mile per every dollar that I spent. So of course there's a $2,000 or $3,000 spending that I had to hit on each one. So essentially I had about another 106,000 Sky miles to use on American. So here I am with about probably 300,000 Sky miles at the beginning of 2015. And everybody's probably thinking, he's screwing himself over. His credit cards, he's got, you can look at it. I have the power right here. I'm not going to show you the numbers on the cards because I already had my identity stolen once. But I have, you can count them, 12 credit cards here. And I'm going to log in just to prove this because everyone's like, what the heck? His credit score is probably nothing. I'm 26 years old. I had a car that I financed, made all the payments, had decent credit, nothing crazy. I don't own a home. I don't own a boat or anything nuts like that. And I'm going to log in real fast to Credit Karma here and show you exactly what my credit score is as of right now. And my Equifax is at 776 and my TransUnion is at 803. And as many of you know, 800 and above is pretty much unreachable for most people as far as credit scores go, unless you've got a lot of things that you financed and you've paid all of them off and you have a lot of lines of credit. So either way, both between TransUnion and Equifax, I am in what you would call as the excellent range. So 750 to 850 is the excellent range. And that is with all of these lines of credit open. So that's a big thing, a myth that I want to kind of dispel there, is that this does not ruin your credit if you do this properly, if you read the training online.
You're using the credit and you're immediately paying it back. So you're a credit-worthy individual. Yeah, so I'm paying off every bill every single month. And if you're not doing that, there, but you got me beat on the 800 piece.
So I'm going to jump into, because I remember I told everybody I'd talk about the annual fees in a second, but I'm going to jump into what happened with this guy and why it caused me a little bit of trouble. So obviously, they see some of these loopholes and the credit card companies start to dislike this. Big reason, mostly because American Express partnered with Target to make this red card, and they're getting crushed on these transaction fees. Target is paying every time you swipe the card for a transaction fee, much like how any business owner has to pay a certain processing fee anytime they take a charge on a credit card. And so Target basically at probably end of this summer this year, basically went in and said, hey guys, this has been a great run so far, but we're not going to let you to charge these guys up with credit cards anymore. The cool thing with how the rules have changed is that there's still ways around this. So while I still can't walk into a Target and charge up this guy from a credit card, in many locations, they still allow you to use debit card, which means that I can actually use my Southwest credit card here to buy preloaded $500 Visa gift cards, put a PIN number on them so I can use them as a debit card, and then take them to Target and charge up this guy with a debit card. Still money that is basically passing hands without me ever having to pay a cent out of my bank account. So this is where you just kind of have to like keep up with the forums, keep up with what people are doing. I'm sure strategies will change again, tomorrow morning and next week and next month. But that was what we kind of had to do for a little while. Going back to annual fees, because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. So if I mentioned something, if I forgot something or skipped it, definitely post it in the comments so I can check it out. But annual fees, so everyone's thinking, holy crap, this guy just opened up, 10 credit cards. He's got easily about $1,000 in annual fees now if everyone is like $100. What do you do? So this was actually a big question of mine when I first started, and I have a post on Reddit in the churning subsection. You can find it. My username is if you go to reddit.com/u/zblacksburg, which is my first initial and my last name. So that's looking up my username. You can see everything I've ever commented on, and you'll eventually find the post for it. But somewhere in churning, I basically said, all right, guys, I followed your advice. I did this. I have like 10 credit cards now. What do I do when all these annual fees hit, which most of them hit, with your first year? A lot of these guys just waive it on the first year, and they charge you at the end of that first year. So that's just kind of like another sign-up bonus that they usually offer. So a lot of people came back with pretty much the same response, which was excellent. I followed all their advice, and it worked perfectly. So I took out most of these cards actually around this time right now. It's, so we're almost halfway through November. I took out all these cards about this time last year because that's when I first started travel hacking and couch surfing around the country. And so what I did was when I took those cards out, I put a notice on my calendar, an alert to pop up 10 or 11 months in to say, hey, dude, you need to call the credit card companies for this card. And here's what you do. So let's say I've got my Southwest card here. I took it out. I've been using it for a year. They see proof that I have spent thousands of dollars on it. I have paid it back each and every single month. I'm a loyal customer. Chase is loving it. They love me. They want me to keep spending more money. I will call them, and immediately when you get someone on the phone, just keep hitting 0, whatever you have to do. I know it's a little bit annoying. But when you get someone on the phone, you can either A, directly just say, I'm considering canceling my card, or B, directly ask them, hey, please transfer me to the retention department. And Ivan, I'm sure as you know, customer retention is huge. Companies do not want to lose you, especially if you have a credit card and you're spending a lot of money.
Right.
So they transfer you over to a person whose sole job is to keep you as a client. So you transfer and they say, hey, thanks for calling in. I heard that, you were a little bit disappointed in your card. Is there anything I can do to help you today? And you say, well, you know what? I've been considering canceling this card because honestly, the annual fees are too high and I really don't want to pay them. Like it's as simple as that. I literally called in.
Right. Absolutely.
Said, hey, I've had this card for about a year now. And actually my excuse that I told them, and this was great, I took it off the forums. They said, just tell them that you took out the card and you really don't plan on flying a whole lot this year, so you don't think you're going to use the benefits of the card. This is a good one for the airlines, at least. And they ate it up. Best excuse ever. I said that. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be flying a whole lot this year, and it just doesn't make sense for me to keep this card and have the annual fee on it. And one of them, they made me an offer that wasn't good enough, so I asked to cancel it because in the grand scheme of things, canceling 1 or 2 cards is actually not that hurtful to your credit score. My score went down by like 10 or 15 points, and it was back up again like 2 or 3 months later. So it's really not that big of a deal to do this. And it falls off your record after a few years. So trust me, guys, it's not going to kill you. But on the other card, what I did was I said, I'm not really going to travel this year. I don't really need this. And they said, oh, well, let me, search and look for some offers. Can I put you on hold for like a minute or two? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You can do that. You take it all the time you want. And, so I'm just sitting there waiting. They come back and they're like, all right, Mr. Blacksburg, we checked our system. We saw you've been with us for, about a year now. You've been great at paying off all your bills. We just found this deal. There's this other type of card that we're more than happy to downgrade you to. And what it is you won't get the same benefits of, the luxury lounge at the airport. But there's no annual fee on it, and you'll still get like, one reward point for every dollar you spend, and revolving monthly bonuses of, gas stations, restaurants, whatever. I'm like, okay, that sounds okay. And this is where your negotiation skills have to come out a little bit. Usually that's not the best they can do. The first one they come out with is decent, and hold on to it because it might be a good offer for you. But then you say, all right, is there anything else that you guys have out there? Because you're not necessarily talking to Southwest Airlines, at least with that card. You're talking to Chase, and Chase is a huge credit card company, and they can transfer you over to all sorts of types of different cards. And so I asked them, and ultimately they came back with like another option too. And they will give away Sky Miles. They will waive your annual fees. And it's so easy, and all you have to do is ask. And so I did, and they waived my annual fee for a year, and I'm like, all right, I will. I'll put a notification on the calendar for 11 months out again, and call them back in a year.
This is where I'm going to jump in and ask a couple of questions, Zephan. So on this note, so first one's quick. What happens when the credit cards and the airlines start jumping onto these forums and read all of the Reddit posts? Do you think it'll have an impact?
Well, I think that's a big thing with why the Target Red Card got shut down, was that, Target basically saw that everybody was coming in and they weren't getting the Target card because they wanted 5% off their groceries or their T-shirts at Target.
Right. So probably start making adjustments, but it's a cat and mouse game. Because, you're basically using their terms and then finding different loopholes, like you were mentioning earlier, to be able to navigate through there and still gain the benefit that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that as long as people are still willing to spend money and are taking out credit cards, I think there's always going to be new ways and methods that are coming out. It's just a matter of figuring out how the game is changing.
Okay. The other one is, what do you mentioned it earlier, I think. What do you use to continuously track your credit score?
Credit Karma. So there's a free app for your iPhone.
Right. That's the one that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I keep it on my phone, and basically there's you can pull a hard credit score. That's like what the credit card companies will pull when they're checking your credit. But there's something called a soft pull. And what Credit Karma does is a soft pull. And essentially, it doesn't leave a trace behind that they've, asked for your full credit history. It's just a simple check on your TransUnion and your Equifax. There's 3 main credit reporting bureaus, and this gives you 2 of them for free. And it's really kind of a rough estimate, but as you saw there, I think with one of them, it was like, 790 something. The other one was above 800. So they're going to be a little bit different, but if I'm still in that excellent range,
that's amazing actually. At 26,
and
what
at
you're doing,
26, I love it. They'll be knocking on my door asking me to buy a house next year,
Total domination. So the third question that I had was, now, as you were talking through it, people are probably asking the same thing themselves. How much time is this taking for you to get, apply for the credit cards, get all this set up, and then also at the end of the year to have to negotiate your way into avoiding those fees?
Yeah. So I think the bigger question is the time worth it, for you to get this many free flights? And
that's what I'm getting. I'm trying to do the ROI.
Yeah. So I'll tell you exactly
you can estimate the time and how much you're getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I've gotten in the last year from doing all this. First, roughly around 25 free airline flights, 2 of them first class, just because of an interesting incident where I had my identity stolen. I was out in California, and all my credit cards actually had been stolen. My bank accounts, everything wiped out. Has nothing to do with what I do with the travel hacking. People can easily steal credit cards any day here when you're through the airport as many times as I am. And I couldn't buy an emergency plane ticket home. I had no credit cards. I had $200 in cash on me, and AmericanAirlines.com doesn't exactly take cash over the internet. But I had my Sky Miles account, and I had about 75,000 Sky Miles in there, and I booked myself a first class ticket back home the next morning to get me out of there, to get me home so I could get my stuff back together. So that's what it's afforded me, is roughly about 25 free flights, including 2 first class seats. The time involvement involved. So I probably spent a good couple of nights a week when I first got into it, just reading through the forums, trying to understand, doing a little research on credit cards. So like an hour or two a night for about the first week, just to understand the process. I applied for credit cards all in the same day. I think I applied for 3 or 4 all at once, which I think they call it an app-o-rama, when you apply to like 3 or 4 all in the same day. And it's actually based off of this like old idea that the credit reporting companies won't report it as like 4 credit checks on your account in one day because it's all in a really close time period. But actually, I think it's a misconception. Not a big deal either way, but just important fact to know. But okay. I spent roughly about a week just researching, an hour or two at night, just watching the forums, researching, what cards to take out. The application for the card takes maybe 5 minutes. You just fill in some info about your income, your address, your history, social security, stuff like that. You get the cards in the mail about 2 weeks later. If you were not approved, obviously you'll get a letter telling you that you didn't, which happened to my roommate. And then I got him on Credit Karma, and he realized his score sucked, and he started following the helpful tips on Credit Karma, built up his credit, and he actually just got his first card. And I think he's flying a free flight to Budapest like at the end of this month. So just goes to show that anyone can do this and make it happen. So more time. So let's see. Spent about a week researching, figured it out, applied, got the cards in the mail. So I believe I started with like 4 or 5 cards, and essentially just right away off the bat kept track of spending and hitting those spending bonuses immediately. So it took a 5-minute drive down the street to my local Target, and I just went card by card just to hit them. So first month worked on the first card, second month hit the second card. But I'm stopping in Target for all of 5 minutes, quick phone call to the credit card company. Hey, I'm making a spend, do the purchase, log online when I get back home, do the online bill pay to pay off that bill. And I would say it's maybe an hour's time total per like transaction of the card, and getting it all circled back so it's paid off. Okay. And then how many transactions per card? So it all kind of depends. I got to remember the limit because I haven't done the red card in a while, but I believe it was like 1,500 per transaction. And I want to say it was 3,000 a day. So I could do essentially 1,500 twice in a day. And the numbers, don't quote me on it. It's on their website. You can find it out if you really want to know. But I knew the numbers like at the time when I was doing this stuff. But essentially, I would over the course of the last 12 months. When did you start doing this? Just before I had left for my trip, November of last year. So yeah, like end of August, September of last year. Okay, so yeah, a little over a year. And you'd say initial was about 15 hours of work, and then maybe another 10. So 25, basically an hour's worth of work per flight. Yeah, that's about right. I just want to put it in perspective. I like it. And each flight is normally a few $100. That's pretty good ROI. Yeah, your average flight and this is the cool thing, is you start to learn like what airports are the main hubs, and this is where you can get creative. You, it's great because you're in Baltimore, and you were mentioning Southwest was the example that you were using, and Southwest is their main hub is Baltimore, so it works great for you. Yeah, and on top of that, so American Airlines, when I was trying to get out of California, I was in LAX, and I found that it was cheaper instead of trying to fly direct from LAX to Baltimore or transferring anywhere else. And you start to get this as you go, but I knew that Dallas was actually a great halfway point for me to stop and get another flight to Baltimore because it would be cheaper than a direct flight. So when I booked those first class seats, I actually saved on points because I flew from LA to Dallas, had a bit of a layover, and then Dallas to back home. Got it. So there's little things that you kind of pick up as you go. I mean, I've been to, I think, 30 or 35 out of the 50 states so far this year. So, I mean, it's you start to figure it out and get really savvy with it as you go. And I don't know where you want to go with it, but, that's just the flight side of things. That's
I was
not
going to say
even all of it.
That's perfect. Yeah, I was just about to transition also over. So that pretty much you knocked it out of the park in terms of the travel portion of it. Now I wanted to actually, yes, get into the lodging piece of it, because those are the two main costs of travel. Your travel, we hit that. And so what about lodging? Couch surfing, you mentioned earlier in the recording.
Yeah, and just real quick to mention, because I was telling everybody the red card doesn't exactly work the same way anymore. Seriously, just follow the forums. They tell you exactly what's working, what you can do now, how things changed. I wanted to give you as a case study that was a perfect example of right timing and just researching and figuring out what worked. Now there's something called Serve or Bluebird, and it works with Walmart, and that's where it gets charged up. So look into that. Vanilla Visa gift cards. They're rechargeable Visa gift cards. You want to look into those as well. So there's tons of other ways to do that. And a quick mention here. When you spend all this money on these credit cards, you're getting a receipt. And one of the things you can do if you're savvy with your taxes is you can write this off as a business expense. So just one thing to keep in mind. Hopefully your accountant won't hate you for it, but if you do your own taxes, you can find ways to write this stuff off as a business expense, because in the end, technically, almost all of my flights involve business. So just wanted to say that before we switch over to lodging.
I love it. Oh, before we do, a question from,
yes.
He's not in the forum here, but the question is, I'm just using Bitcoin now, so no cards. Any relationship to what you're doing with Bitcoin? I can't think of anything other than it will
you can
deny you the ability, right?
You can buy stuff with Bitcoin, but I think that it's one of those things that didn't catch on enough. There are definitely places where you can buy stuff. Yeah, so 20% discount on Amazon. One of the things you can do with that, Eric, is actually you can buy Southwest Airlines gift cards on Amazon. So if you're getting a 20% discount on buying Southwest Airlines gift cards for flights that are racking you up points because you're actually buying flights now at 20% off. That's kind of like a little piece there. You're not exactly getting flights for free, but you're getting, your flight for essentially 20% off. And then you're also saving money on the back end because you're racking up points as well. And it's also all a business expense and a tax write-off.
Cool. Thanks for that, Eric. Yeah, Eric's big in the Bitcoin space. He's been on a few of my blogs.
No, that's awesome. And this is, for me personally, I haven't used Bitcoin. So like, I'm not, one to like totally come off as the expert on that at all. But okay, coffee.foldapp.com. Definitely will check that out. Huge Starbucks drinker. So we'll definitely have to look at that.
The expert.
So lodging, let's jump into lodging.
Yeah,
so
let's do that. We got, it's about 9:50. You think you can do it in about 12, 15 minutes?
We got this. So lodging for me, my first big travel experience happened November and December of last year, where I traveled over, I think, 10,000 miles from November 1st to essentially New Year's Eve. We basically traveled Baltimore to Denver, Denver to San Fran to LA, LA to Dallas, Dallas to home. That was all of November for me. That was all flying. Part of it was couch surfing, part of it was Airbnb, and part of it was friends. So first thing, go on Facebook and be like, what's up, friends? I'm going to be in this city. Do you know anybody? And that was huge for us. Everybody knew somebody somewhere who had a couch for us. On top of that, Airbnb, if you haven't used it before, sign up through a friend's referral link. And I think I got like $25 off my first stay. And you can find places as cheap as like $35, $40 a night. So if your first night in a place costs you $15, that's not too bad. On top of that, if you start referring your friends and getting them to sign up, you also get discounts as well. So that's a big thing to use and take advantage of there. On top of that, using Uber and Uber promo codes, it's a big deal. Everybody's saving a lot of money by getting all their friends to sign up. The trick with Airbnb is make sure you get at least one of your friends on there to leave a review for you so that when you go to apply to stay at someone's home, you have at least one good rating on your profile to show that you're not a psycho killer. Couch surfing. Couch surfing is an awesome app. It lets you search in the area for people and see open couches, bedrooms, things like that. The thing we learned the hard way with that is you have to reach out in advance and build a relationship. You cannot just go to a city. Hebrew. We've got Hebrew in there. I haven't read it in a very long time, but Alex Daly, I used to be partially fluent in Hebrew, so thank you so much.
Don't let Alex distract you. He's very good at that.
But so let's see, couch surfing, you want to build up a rapport with the family or whoever you're talking to, usually a few weeks, if not a month or so in advance. And that's really where it's like, if you know you're going to travel next month, go on there and be like, hey, you know, I'm looking to be in town on these dates, hoping maybe you can help me out. Here's a little bit about me. And, you know, that's really the best way to do that. Because we tried it one time. We were in Charleston, South Carolina, and like it's 9:00 at night and we needed a place to stay and we couldn't find a place. So another thing, I kind of like sleeping out of my car every now and then if I have to. We were on a road trip for December. We did a 3,000-mile road trip. My cousin and I left Baltimore, went up to Pittsburgh, all the way out through Ohio to Indianapolis, circled down to Jacksonville, Florida, and all the way back up the East Coast. And so sleeping out of the car, really not so bad. I always keep a sleeping bag in there anyway. So just a cool thing to do for road trips. Camping, always free, if not ridiculously cheap. Couch surfing, once again, hooking up with friends and seeing who's in the area. Old business acquaintances. We were in Indianapolis and one of my old business acquaintances saw me post something on like Twitter or Facebook. It was like, hey, I'll kick my daughter out for the night so you have a clean bed to sleep in. Come on over, guys, and sleep at our place. They made us dinner. We watched movies with the family. It was awesome. So that's really the best thing to do there. And then if you're going international, you want to look into something called woofing. And woofing is a pretty cool thing. WWOOF. And it's wwoofinternational.org. And you get to live and learn on organic farms. So internationally, if you're traveling, and there's other websites for it too, but you get to actually find people and live on their farms, live with them in their homes as trade for working on the farm for a few hours a day. They usually show you around the community. You get free meals with them and you get to hang out there. And so that's one of the cool things. There's also all these like house sitting, pet sitting services up there where you can actually like find very wealthy people with mansions that have pets and stay in their homes. So that's something too, but you just want to plan it out a little bit in advance. Once again, all of these expenses can be taken care of with the credit card bonuses because there's things such as the Marriott Rewards credit cards. There's the Hilton Rewards cards, the IHG cards, all those guys. So same process as getting all the flights. You can actually get thousands and thousands of Sky Miles or essentially hotel points that can be reserved for hotels. And that's exactly how on the first night of our road trip, 3,000-mile road trip, we stayed at a hotel completely free, 2 queen-size beds, and free breakfast in the morning.
I like it. So I want to do a little quick recap of everything we've talked about so far tonight. And then I want you to fill any gaps of things that you can think of as I'm speaking. So first thing we covered in 2 broad brush categories was how to travel for free or practically for free by using just maybe an hour of your time to get a free flight. Next thing we talked about was how to basically stay anywhere that you're going to for free. And the platforms that you were talking about is the main resources that you addressed on the flight piece was looking at the blog Reddit. There's a subcategory in there known as, what was the name of that again?
Churning, churning.
And then the second piece was the lodging piece. And then there were 3 main sources of using referral codes, such as via Airbnb. You can get some free stays there. Also couch surfing. And then the woofing piece. There's, I guess, the domestic woof and an international woof, right? Any other ones you
and
can
also
think of?
Reach out on Facebook too. I mean, you have so many friends all over the country.
Got it. Man, you killed it. You destroyed it. I think you've done this before.
I know. I think the credit card companies are going to be a little pissed off at me tonight. We're going to have all these people applying for credit cards.
Oh, absolutely. I think so.
Fair warning on all this for everyone listening too. This is kind of that, doctor, surgeon general's advisory. this is all at your own risk. You have a credit score to maintain. You've got a family. You've got a lot of finances and things to keep track of. Do not get reckless with this. Do not lose yourself in it. Don't go and apply for 15 credit cards in one day. Read the forums, watch what people are doing, and just basically go with the guidance that they're giving you.
Cool. So Zephan, with that, give us a little recap of where people can find you. Whether it's, again, the website, tell us about that, the podcast, Twitter, email. What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, man. So I am the host of the Year of Purpose podcast, free on iTunes. Everybody can check it out. iTunes, Stitcher Radio, pretty much any podcast source. We're also going to be on Google Play. They just accepted us. And we've got so many free episodes there. I think we're about to hit episode 70. I release them now twice a week. So every Tuesday, Thursday, you get a brand new episode where I interview an entrepreneur or some amazing person that I have found from all over the globe that has created a life on their own terms, whether that means successful business. I interviewed the first girl to ever stand up paddleboard across the Bering Strait on her own. So tons of amazing people that are doing cool things there. So that's yearofpurpose.com for the podcast. Also, once again, on iTunes and Stitcher. If you're on an iPhone, just head on over to getyop.com. That's GETYOP.com in Safari on your iPhone. It'll actually flip over into the podcast app and take you straight to it so you can subscribe and check out the episodes. Good buddy of mine, Dave Rogan-Moser, interviewed him a few episodes back, and he wrote a book and talks all about the stuff we shared tonight because he does pretty much the same thing too. So he's a cool guy. Check that one out. And just getting ready to put the finishing touches on my book. It's called Life Rescripted, Find Your Purpose and Design Your Dream Life Before the Curtains Close. And it's all about looking at the story of your life to figure out what are the pieces that you would like to change. For me last year, a big piece was I wanted to travel more, and I found a way to make it happen. And this is exactly how I gave you guys every step, every tip, every tool that I use. And so it's really about creating the life that you want. That's at liferescriptedbook.com. I am all over social media. Reach out on Facebook. We've got a facebook.com/Year of Purpose, Instagram.com/Year of Purpose, Instagram.com/Zephan Moses is my personal photography work because I do own a video production and photography business. And pretty much if you Google my name, I'm like the only Zephan Moses out there. So you will definitely find me.
All right, man. I love this. This is good. No, it's great. It's inspiring. You're 26 and you're definitely
26.
Ahead of the game. Most 26-year-olds, they're still trying to figure things out after college. So
and still have a good credit score. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Zephan, thank you so much for coming on. Short notice. We saw each other at DC Podfest on Friday and Saturday. I guess that would have been yesterday. And now you're here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
And if I can help you in any way, let me know.
Thank you so much.
Cool. All right. That ends the episode. Sunday night startup mastermind. There you have it. If you're a startup founder and you want to get somewhere and you say, oh, I don't have any money to travel. I don't have any money for hotel and lodging. Well, you do.
Yep. No excuses now. And Zephan got
replay
just in time to watch his replay of The Walking Dead. So you guys are making me super happy tonight.